So in this video we're going to look at the system of motorcycle control. It's a fundamental, basic, underlying principle of everything else that we do in advanced riding and in advanced driving as well, the system of car control. So let's have a look at what it is. Let's break it down into its core components and look at how we apply the system of car control, what it is, how we apply it, and how it helps us on the road. So let's start with what the system of motorcycle control is. I apologise if I say car control at any point. I've been teaching this stuff in cars for so long, sometimes it just comes out as car control instead of motorcycle control. But anyway, what is it? So what system is it's a way of approaching and negotiating hazards. And a hazard is anything you could be dealing on the road. Could be this corner here, could be the fact there's a school up here, could be the road surface, could be the water on the road, could be somebody stepping out, could be a junction, roundabout, hill crest, bend. Anything at all that you encounter on the road is a hazard. So the system is a way of approaching any of those hazards and considering the same things in the same order every single time. So the system is flexible enough to apply to any type of hazard whatsoever. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do all or any of the things associated with the phases of the system of car control. You just need to consider them on the approach to and as you negotiate a hazard. So if you look at roadcraft, if you look at any of the other advanced driving manuals or riding manuals, you'll see a schematic drawing of the system of motorcycle control. And that system shows you 5 phases. There's an information phase and 4 action phases. The action phases are the things that you would consider doing in the approach to or through a hazard. The information phase starts before you do anything else and it runs all the way through those other phases of the system. Actually, the information phase for me should just be one long line from the moment that you put your leg over the bike to the moment that you get off it, continually taking and processing and using information. So let's go through each of those 5 phases and see what they mean, see what the relevance to us is on the bike. And the first phase, as we said before, is information. So what do we do with information? What do we mean by information? What do we do with it? Well, there's 3 things that we do with information. We take, we use, and we give. We give it a tug. So let's start with taking information. This will sound fairly obvious. I apologise if it sounds like I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but the primary way that we take information in when we're riding the bike is with our eyes. We are looking down the road all the time. And you'll find as you go on through this series of videos that actually my observations are a long way in the distance. I'm looking at that van moving from left to right over there, looking in the far distance and working my way back. I will do a video about observations and planning on the bike, how we use a particular method to look in the far distance and work our way back. But yeah, the primary method for taking information in is looking down the road. But there are other ways as well. We can use all our senses, especially on the bike. Your sense of smell is important on the bike. If you've ever got the smell of diesel, you'll know what I mean. That really gets your attention, doesn't it? Now we use our ears at junctions to listen if there's anything coming. And we use our sense of touch as well, so feel is really important on the bike. We can feel what the bike's doing. We're physically in touch with the thing. The bike is like an extension of you. It reacts to your inputs, but it gives you inputs as well. It gives you information. We're taking that information in from the bike all the time about the road surface, the feel. On a windy day like today, you can feel the bike being pushed around by the wind. It's a source of information for you. So we take information in primarily with our eyes, but also with our other senses as well. The second thing we do with information is we use it. So how do we use it? Well, we use it to formulate a plan. And I said in the introduction to these series of videos that planning is one of the most important things I'm looking for as an examiner. I want to see that you can plan your way on your approach to a hazard, that we don't just arrive at it with no cohesive plan as to what we're going to do. So that's how we do it. We take a lot of information in with our eyes and our other senses, and we use it to formulate a plan to how we're going to negotiate the hazard. And then the third thing we do with information is we give information to other road users. We give it using a range of different signals, most obvious of which is an indicator down here with the thumb on the bike. But now I'm braking for the 30 limit, and if there was anybody behind me, that would give them a signal because they'd see my brake lights come on. We can give hand signals on the bike, we can use the horn, we can use a headlight flash. We've got all these range of signals available to us on the bike, and that is how we give information out. So that's it, that's the first phase, information. We take, we use, and we give information, we give it a tug. Then the second phase of the system, that's position. So for instance, on the approach to this roundabout, I'm turning left, put a left signal on, looking behind, I'm positioning to the near side. So there's a number of different priorities that we've got when we're positioning the bike. The first one always is safety, and that overrides everything else. So even if I'm taking a good position to take a nice arc around a good fast corner, if there's something there that compromises my safety, then I'll compromise that position. So always compromise your position for safety above everything else. But we also position, you know, to straighten a corner. We position for view and for vision. We're positioned to give ourselves a better, longer view down the road, and also for other people to see us. So you can use your position so that other people can get a better view of you. Very important on a motorbike that people can see you. How many times do people get knocked off the bike by somebody who just says, "Oh, I'm sorry mate, I didn't see you." So the more we can do to make ourselves visible to other road users, the better. So that's position. We'll talk a bit more. I'll probably do a whole video on positioning at some point, I think. But as far as the system of car control, second phase is position. And after that comes the third phase, which is speed. And by speed, I mean that we're negotiating a hazard, we're driving through something, we're going to need to reduce our speed. And there's two primary methods on the bike. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but there's two primary methods on the bike that reduce the speed. The first is by decelerating, rolling off the throttle, and the second is by braking. There is a third one, but it involves getting off the bike while it's still moving. That's not a good idea, I don't recommend it. So if you think about decelerating, rolling off the gas, the bike slows down, and bikes slow down pretty quickly, don't they? Because there's a lack of mass on the bike, it doesn't weigh so much. You get that nice engine braking effect. There's a couple of things to bear in mind with that. On the bike, it's only slow in the rear wheel. So the bike isn't as balanced if you're only slowing down using gears. We try to avoid just taking a gear to slow the bike. That's not the right way to do it. I don't mind a bit of deceleration in the gear that you're in. But remember as well that you're not showing any brake lights to the rear if you're just using deceleration to slow the bike. So the other way of slowing the bike obviously is using the brakes, and it's a bit more complex on a bike than it is in the car, because you've got a brake lever and a brake pedal. You control the front and rear brakes independently. The majority of the braking on the bike is done with the front wheel, because that's where the weight goes as you start to press the brakes. You pull that brake lever in, the weight goes forward, lifts the weight off the rear, puts all the braking effort on the front. That's why the brakes are much bigger on a bike on the front than they are on the rear. But we want to control the bike properly when we're braking, so we do still need to use both brakes. So correct use of the rear brake will keep the bike balanced, keep the bike stable under braking. It's very important we keep the bike as stable as we can do. So that's the speed phase, the third phase of the system of car control. Bike control. Told you I'd keep doing that, didn't I? They are the same for car and bikes. Only the name is changed. So the fourth phase of the system of bike control, system of motorcycle control, is gear. So you need to select, once you've got your speed correct, then we get the correct gear on the approach to a hazard. And we want a gear that's flexible. We want a gear that isn't too low that the bike's revving off the limiter, and isn't too high that the bike is struggling to go and lugging away in too high a gear. And it depends on a few things. It depends on your bike, depends on the gearing of your bike, but it depends mostly on the speed that you're travelling at. So towards the end of the speed phase, we'll select the most appropriate, the most flexible gear for that speed. And then the final phase of the system of motorcycle control is acceleration. So in short, it's just the correct amount of safe, smooth acceleration to get you into the hazard, through it and out the other side. Now the thing to remember with a bike is, I mean, one thing that bikes have got is a phenomenal amount of acceleration. It really is. You know, this bike will do 0 to 100 in 5.5 seconds. How much money would you have to spend on a car to get that kind of performance? So it's been responsible in the way that we apply that acceleration as well. Use it appropriately. The correct amount of safe, smooth acceleration to drive into, through and out the other side of the hazard. So there's the 5 phases of the system of bike control. It's an outline of them. Let's go and put them into practice. And what I find when I'm teaching this stuff is that I think the best place to start learning system is on roundabouts, because you're going through a similar sort of process every time you approach a roundabout. You've got the similar things to consider. And the other thing about roundabouts is there is a definite point where you can tell whether your system is well timed or not, and that point is the give way line at the roundabout. So really everything that you're doing on the approach to a roundabout, and this is irrespective of whether you have to stop or whether you're continuing on at the roundabout, and it's the give way line. We want everything done before we get to the give way line. Position, speed, gear engaged, clutch re-engaged if you need it, ready to accelerate. So with that in mind, I've decided to come and pay a visit to Skelmersdale. Skelmersdale, I've got a long history with Skelmersdale. I joined the police 30 years ago this year. I've not actually been in the police for 11 years, but I joined the police 30 years ago today. I would have retired if I'd stayed in. This year, it would have been my retirement year. But my first posting in 1990 was at Skelmersdale, which is there in the bottom southwest corner of Lancashire. And most of Skelmersdale was built as a new town in the 60s and early 70s as an overspill to a lot of the old slums that used to be in Liverpool. And I can't tell you how much fun I had working in Skelmersdale. I absolutely loved my first couple of years in the police here as a probationer. It was really good fun. The people here are great. You might speak to a lot of people who will tell you how horrible a place Skelmersdale is. Don't believe them, it's a great town. But the one thing that Skelmersdale's got in abundance, probably more than anywhere else in the country, is roundabouts. It is a world of roundabouts. So if I'm going to teach you system and we're going to use roundabouts, there is no better place in the UK. So I think there's well in excess of 100 roundabouts in Skelmersdale. When they built the place, they did design this what at the time was considered to be a very modern road network. Roundabouts and footpaths that didn't run next to the road, and underpasses. And it's left us with a world of roundabouts. So, as we're going along this long stretch of road now, we're going to start thinking about the roundabout at the end of it. Hello, sir. So with local knowledge, I mean, listen, you don't need local knowledge in Skelmersdale to know that the next junction will be a roundabout. Wherever you go, the next junction will be a roundabout. But at the end of this road is a roundabout, and I am going to go straight on, and I'm going to apply the system of motorcycle control to going straight on. So on approach, I'm going to start making my plan. I'm taking, using and giving information on approach, and I'm going to use the information to form a plan as to how I'm going to ride around the roundabout. So generally the first bit of information you get on approach to a roundabout, certainly if it's on a main road, is the route board. And the route board is where you're going to make your decision about which position you're going to take on the roundabout. So think of it as a clock face. It's anything to the left of 12 o'clock, then I'm going to be positioning near side. If anything to the right of 12 o'clock, then I'm going to be positioning offside. There's a warning sign here for a corner with an advisory speed limit of 30. I like to make my own decision, but it's a nice warning that it's a fairly tight bend. And just off the bend is the roundabout. So I'm looking now for some information about it. Looking for the route board. See you in a minute. And that's typical, isn't it? No route board at this one, but we're going straight ahead. So for straight ahead, I'm going to position near side. I'm on the speed phase now on the brakes, front and rear brakes. When I come off the brakes, third gear, and ride round the roundabout. Shortest route on the roundabout, left shoulder check, and then exit the roundabout and up to 40 miles an hour. So at the next roundabout, I'm going to take first exit left at the next roundabout. So already I'm taking a position here towards the near side that opens my view up around the corner. I can see cars negotiating that roundabout in the distance now, going over that little underpass. So on approach, there's the route board. I'm taking first exit left. I am checking the mirrors. There's nothing behind me, but I will still put a signal on at the roundabout just in case I've missed something. So there's me giving information, take, use and give. Near side position, I'm on the speed phase on the brakes, dipping the clutch, then down to first gear, and away we go. Leaving that left signal on, up to second gear, right shoulder, left shoulder, and just exit the roundabout there on the smoothest bit of tarmac I can find on that horrible pitted bit of tarmac. So my position is dictated by primarily what I see on the route board. Like I said before, if it's to the left, if we're going left, we're going to position near side. If we're going right, we're going to position offside. Straight on, well, we've got a choice really. Actually, I'm going to choose centre lane here because of the state of the tarmac, for my safety. Left shoulder check before we exit. The next roundabout, I'm going to go straight on towards the town centre. There isn't really a town centre in Skem, it's got the Concourse shopping centre, it's just a big shopping centre. But anyway, we'll go straight on towards the town centre. Mirrors and shoulders, position's correct, speed on the brakes, third gear, and ride round. So when I'm on the speed phase, I'm reducing the speed of the bike on the brakes, gently touch the front brake just slightly before I bring the rear brake in. Front brake, rear brake, off the brakes now. Third gear is okay for this one. Now at the gear phase, you've two choices really in how you do it. One thing you've got to remember, especially if you're coming from cars to bikes, is that the gearbox on a bike is sequential, so you can't block change down. You can't change from 6th to 3rd gear or from 5th to 2nd in one go. You have to go through all the gears. So if we're applying the system of motorcycle control, and on the car we try and separate the two out, we try and finish the brake and then change gear. On the bike it's slightly different, and there's two ways of doing it. And the first one is to, towards the end of the braking, just to pull the clutch in and sequentially change down to the gear that you've chosen. Keep the clutch in and change down. So you might be in sixth, you might have braked down to 20 miles an hour and you might want second gear. Now that's easier if you've got a gear change indicator. I've got a gear change indicator on this bike, it tells me I'm in fourth gear now. Otherwise, if you haven't, you're going to have to count the gears down. And this isn't my preferred method. Some people use this method and it's absolutely fine for them. It's not my preferred method at the gear phase. What I prefer to do is just change down sequentially just towards the end of the braking. So here, for instance, we're going left, a little bit of brakes, fourth, third, and third is the right gear. Now on this bike, it's made it easier for me because it's got BMW's quick shift, gear shift assist pro, I think they call it. So I'm not having to clutch it, but even so, just separately do those gears one at a time until I'm in the correct gear. Here's Dogbone Island, you can see why they call it that. Every island, every roundabout in Skem has got a name. This is Dogbone. In a bit I'm going to take you around Half Mile Island, which I think, it's certainly one of the biggest roundabouts in Europe. It might be the biggest in the UK. And the clue's in the name, it's half a mile round. I thought there'd be a roundabout with half a mile round. Anyway, we'll go there in a minute. So yeah, gears, two choices really. Pull the clutch in, essentially block change, but you're going to have to tap it down for each individual gear. Or like I do now, position, speed on the brakes, fourth, third, just towards the end of the braking. Before we move on to the fifth phase, which is acceleration. Keeping that right indicator on, keeping a position here that shows I'm going all the way around to the right. Quick look off to the left. You notice my head's all the way around to the right, looking where I'm going, also trying to stay off that pitted bit of tarmac there. Left signal now, left shoulder check. Tip it over in that gap in between the potholes. Here's a little tip for you. You see a pothole, don't look at it. Look at the gap, not the pothole. If you look at something, you'll hit it. Target fixation. It's a well-known phenomenon. If you look at something, you'll hit it. That's why we always say look at the gap, not the tree, because you'll hit the tree if you look at it. Good afternoon, sir. A few bikes out today. It's one of the few dry days we've had this February. It's been absolutely shocking with the weather recently. So I'm going to do a little bit of commentary through the next series of roundabouts. And in each case I'm going to talk you through the system, the phases of the system of motorcycle control. Nearly said it again then. So you can see how I'm applying those phases in order on approach to the hazard, on approach to the roundabout, which in this case is the hazard that we're dealing with. So, checking the mirrors now to take in information. Positioning to the near side to get a good view. There's the route board. I am turning right, so I'm checking the mirrors again, shoulders, putting a right signal on, moving my position to the offside. I'm on the brakes for the speed phase and I'm going to wait for this white car. I'm going to brake it right down to a stop, change down to first as I'm doing that, and then we're ready to go. Second before we turn right, looking left, looking all the way through the roundabout now, accelerating, left signal, left shoulder check, and leave the roundabout. Right to mount a safe, smooth acceleration. The next roundabout I'm going to turn left, checking the mirrors, I've got a car behind, checking the shoulders, left signal, position to the near side, so information, position, speed, I'm just rolling off the gas at the moment, looking right, there's a car coming, but we're going to get away in front of that, and we're going to turn left, gear is correct, and we're accelerating out the roundabout, up to the national speed limit now. It's dual carriageway, so that's 70. I'll maintain 70 in lane 1 along this section of the dual carriageway, positioning just to the right of the centre of the lane, just to the right of it. It's giving me a slightly better view around this corner. So the next roundabout is Half Mile Island, and let's do a big right at Half Mile Island. Looking for the route board, you'll see it in a minute. We'll check the mirrors and shoulders, position offside, to put a right signal on. Position's correct, I'm on the speed phase, on the brakes, I have a limited view, so I'm staying on the brakes, down 3 gears to third, last quick check, and then accelerate. And it's a bit egg-shaped, this half-mile island, so the corner tightens up, so let's lean it over, nice bit of gentle acceleration. The speed limit has changed to 40 here. And I've moved my position now over to the near side, so I'm actually applying system twice on this roundabout, once to enter and once to leave. Just checking left for information. I'm going to put a left signal on now because I'm leaving at this exit. Pretty big roundabout that, isn't it? Not sure if it is exactly half a mile round, but that's half-mile island anyway, in between Birch Green and Old Scam. So there we go, that's how we apply the system of car control to roundabouts. Now actually it's not limited to roundabouts, like I said before, every single situation that you come and deal with, turning left at a junction, right at the junction, dealing with a bus, horse, cyclist, pedestrians, anything at all, we apply the system of car control. But a nice introduction is to come and ride around some roundabouts and see how we apply it on the approach to roundabouts. So I've adjusted my position there just to stay on the dry tarmac. That isn't normally the line that I would take around that roundabout if we're going straight on. But we changed the position just for safety's sake to stay on the dry tarmac. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, I hope you've got something from it. It's a bit of a taster of the sort of stuff that's going to come along later. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get the subscriber count up. Press the notifications button as well. You'll get an email every time I upload a new video. Again, don't despair if you're still back here for car content. I'm still doing car content as well. We'll try and vary the videos a little bit. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time. It wouldn't be a Reg Local video if I didn't finish this off with an overtake, would it? So the best place for an overtake is off a right-hander. I'm going to keep the bike into the near side because that extends my view past this car a little bit. Gives me an earlier view down the road. Looking for a break in the lines. There it is. Bit of a crest in the road there. Can't see past it. Now it's on. Right, as you were, see you next time.